his gut feel knows to get America back to work, except in this case, there's an election coming up in 3 months from now. So he's got that to deal with, and a lot of divisiveness, and everything we just talked about is about times 5 or 10 in America when it comes to cancel culture, woke ideology, leftists, Marxists, you name it. What's your read of what's going on there, and then the election?
Well, I find Joe Biden to be a ridiculous choice of candidate for the Democrats. I mean, this is a guy who can't
They must be kicking themselves that he was the nominee.
Well, I mean, there are those who have a theory, which is that he picks a running mate who happens to be a woman, who's probably going to be a black woman. We're not sure who. But there's a couple of candidates, and he gets into the White House and then is so doddery that he just kind of hands over to the vice president. Now, I could buy into that, possibly, because I can't see Biden running anything. I mean, he literally can't tell the difference between his wife and his sister, right? He didn't know where he was the other day. He goes on stage and everyone goes, oh, well, that's what happens when you're on a tour.
And he's up 15 points in the poll in the biggest country in the world.
But this is why you don't believe the polls.
Right.
Because I had, funny enough, a bet with my sister, who's a bit of a champagne socialist herself. Okay. Nice big house in Connecticut, apartment in Manhattan, votes Democrat. They used to ring up when I was there, the old Democrat fundraising people, and I just tell them to get lost, put the phone down. She's become a Republican, slap. She's like, who was that? No one,
It's like the Vanity Fair crowd, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And I had a bet with her 4 years ago. I said, Trump's going to win. And all of her friends were like, no chance. So I bet her $100.
How did you know that or think that?
Because I knew that there was a feeling abroad that Barack Obama had been a complete and utter failure. Okay. In the same way that the people in this country knew that Boris Johnson was the only guy that could get them Brexit. And so they voted for him in massive numbers. And people were fed up with this whole kind of, the kind of the coronation, if you like, of Michelle and Barack Obama, as if they were the greatest people that ever walked the earth, And as if they were sort of walking off into the sunset together. You could almost see, somebody painting a picture of them, walking hand in hand into this glorious sunset. And he was one of the worst presidents America ever had. He did nothing. And in fact, racism was worse under him. He fired even more missiles than Bill Clinton did at various, caves around the world and various different encampments of terrorists. And he just didn't achieve anything other than the fact that he occupied the chair, And she was a slightly more palatable version of Hillary Clinton to me. Oh, you get 2 for the price of 1. Well, I don't want 2 for the price of 1. I want 1 for the price of 1 who does something. And this whole kind of, cult of personality around him. And I just thought, and also Trump is a very smart guy. I mean, I kind of know him from years ago when I worked in New York in the 80s when he was kind of everywhere.
Right.
You see those pictures of him with Epstein. That's the Trump that I knew.
Right.
Part
of the culture.
Yeah.
Dominant, to building his buildings. But also, I spoke to Judge Jeanine Pirro, who has a show on Fox, and she's known him for 30 years. And she said, Brian, you don't understand. We used to walk down the street and everybody, construction workers to the chef in the back, they all loved him.
Yeah.
And
because he was, whether you like it or not, the embodiment of the American dream. Now, all these people who go, oh yeah, but he started with a load of money that his dad gave him. Doesn't matter. He was flash. He built casinos. I mean, bizarrely, one of the few casinos actually went bust down in New Jersey, where I spent a night once. And I ate in a restaurant where everything was black, including the plates, which made it quite disconcerting. But,
Taj Mahal, maybe.
But people like that guy.
Yeah.
And when he is that guy, they like him even more. And like we were saying earlier, people don't want to admit that they vote for him because they think that people will think they're not very nice people. But all he has to do is get the same people who voted for him to vote for him again. That's all he has to do. He doesn't have to get any new voters. I don't think he's going to lose any voters because if you voted for Trump, you're going to vote for him again, aren't you?
I would think so. He looks a little less confident lately. He looks a little, I think he's kowtowing to the Corona people and trying to give him a line, even though he's kind of, slamming Fauci on the side. But he doesn't seem confident when I see him at his press conferences. No. Not even as much as he was at the coronavirus briefing. I thought he showed great leadership there.
Yeah.
He came out, he was himself. He gave the country and the world some calmness, at least this is what's going on, this is what we planned. Right. But lately, he just seems a little bit rattled.
But I think, you've worked in high-profile situations, you've been in pressurized situations, unrelenting pressure, I think, gets to everyone in the end. And I think if you wake up every morning and everybody's saying you're doing a crap job and you're an idiot and you're useless, I mean, even somebody like him will eventually kind of go, Christ almighty. I mean, it's like whenever I've had myself involved in the odd Twitter spat, if it reaches this kind of nuclear proportion, there's a point at which you just go, bloody hell, I just need to go and hide for a while. And just get away from it all. And when you're president, you can't, and it must be tough. And he's got, the problem for him, I suppose, he doesn't have very many friends in the room because all of the people that have ever worked at the White House have eventually gone and said horrible things about him. You know?
Yeah, or he sacked him.
But I mean, he can't really trust anyone around him,
Yeah.
it seems to me, because they all disappear and they all write about it and they all give interviews and he slags them off and it's kind of becoming a recurring theme. Maybe he's just running out of people to actually talk to.
Could be.
know?
I mean, who can he talk to? I don't think he talks to Melanie much. His sons, maybe.
Yeah.
But he's, I think he kind of does it himself.
Yeah, I don't think he's got much of an inner circle. It doesn't seem as though he's got a kind of a. I mean, Pence looks literally like he's been manufactured somewhere down in Virginia somewhere. They've just come out of the factory.
I did like his calm demeanor at the coronavirus briefings, but I also imagine there's no way you can have this guy after you've had a Trump.
No.
I just don't know how we could. But
No.
he's the perfect guy for Trump because Trump needs a guy that's super loyal, doesn't need the spotlight,
Doesn't really say much.
that will just show up and do the work, and also kowtow to all the liberal governors in America and tell them what they want to hear when Trump wants to tell them to go to hell. So they make a great team.
The thing that's really,
I
suppose, disturbing for Americans is that the best they can do from the Democrat side is to come up with Joe Biden. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't.